Oh, that's me.
Hey there, kiddos! Uda here. Obviously. It's my face, so you definitely know this time. Anyway, we're doing a different kind of video today. I'm a big old fan of arts and crafts, and you've seen my drawings and stuff maybe on the channel. But today I thought I would do a different kind of craft project that I really like, and it is called needle felting. And if you don't know what that is, needle felting is basically the process of stabbing wool with special barbed needles, make it get all tangly and compressed, and you can basically make little sculptures out of fiber. And you can get different kinds of like little kits and stuff. This is from Daiso, which is like a Japanese dollar store. And a lot of them come with, most of the stuff you need. They come with the wool, the needle, you can make little keychains. And they come with instructions that are usually in Japanese, but they're pictures, so as long as you can follow pictures, it's not that hard. Sometimes there's English too. Anyway, we today are going to be making this little guy. Feel free to follow along and all that good stuff. While I've got you here, by the way, before we get into it, hi, I'm Uda. If you're new to the channel, please drop a subscription. I would greatly appreciate it. We're trying to get to 1,000 subs this year, and every single one of you really, really helps. And if you enjoy this video and would like to see more of this kind of video in the future, drop a like, leave a comment. I greatly appreciate the feedback. Anyway, let's get into what you're gonna need to do this project. Now, roll the sleeves up. For starters, personally, I have these, I got a little kit, and it came with these leather finger cover thingies. And they're to protect your fingers. You don't stab them as much, because, yeah, even when you're careful, likely you stab yourself a few times. So these help a little bit. So I recommend a pair of these. You can go on Amazon. Etsy has a lot of needle felting kits, all that kind of stuff. So safety first, y'all. Safety first. And secondly, a little foam needle felting mat. It helps a lot. You don't necessarily need this. You can also use a sponge, just like a kitchen sponge. It's, not quite as big, but you can make it work. When I started, I did that. Sometimes you get a little bit of the sponge stuff mixed in, but if you're just starting and you want to try it out, it's not that bad. But yeah, you can get, again, one of these little mats off of Amazon or Etsy or something. They are pretty cheap. You can usually get a kit with one of these, some the little finger booties, some needles, and some colored wool to start out with. Speaking of needles, got little barbs on the needle, and that basically catches the fibers and causes them to get all tangled up. That's how needle felting works, and thankfully wool, really good at tangling. So you're going to need at least one of these barbed needle felting needles. Like I said, most kits come with them. You can also get a little holder for your needle. It takes a little time and patience, so your hands get tired, your arms get tired. Now here's my secret. I have a multi-needle tool. It has 3 needles in it. This makes it a lot quicker, so personally I recommend, if you can, start out with the one just to get used to it, but once you're comfortable, a multi-needle tool is amazing. So, like I said, booties, foam mat, some form of needle with the barbs, a needle felting needle, and then you're going to want some basic white filler wool that we're going to use for the inside of the head. Like, you can't see it, but inside is all full of white wool. And then you're also going to need some brown. That's going to be his, the majority of his head color is brown. Doesn't have to be the exact colors, honestly. I just use my head laying around. We're going to need a little bit of a darker brown for the details. And then we're going to want a little bit of blue for his eyeballs. And we just use that same filler wool to do the white parts of his eyes. Oh, and I forgot a little bit of pink to the inner ears. So let's go over that again. White filler, a light brown, a dark brown, a blue, and a pink. And you're not really gonna need that much of the blue or the pink. Or really even the dark brown on it. A little bit can go a long way. That is the basics of what you're gonna need to get started with this, and I've probably rambled for more than long enough here. So yeah, this video might be a little bit longer than normal because I didn't know how much to cut down and speed up and all that good stuff. So bear with me, and yeah, I hope you enjoy. Let's get into the needle felting and make ourselves a squishy little Nook boy.
Okay, to get this started, I'm going to take some of the white wool and I'm going to kind of roll it up into a little bit of a ball here, and then I'm going to take that ball, I'm going to set it aside for a minute, and I'm going to take another big long piece of the white wool and I'm going to kind of pull it apart and make it bigger and, you know, loosen the fibers up, and then I am going to roll the ball up in the other fiber. As I roll it up, I'm going to be taking the sides and kind of wrapping them around and tucking them in as best as I can so I can make a nice, neat little ball. So what we're going to do now is take our needle and we're going to start stabbing that last end bit that we wrapped around the ball, and we're going to start making it come together. Now, since we are making a ball, it is important that you keep rotating it as you're stabbing it. Just keep moving it around and around so that you evenly stab it all over and the entire ball gets the same kind of density and it's a nice even ball. A little tip if you are new to felting, you do not have to stab very hard when you're doing this. You really just want to do it lightly. When the ball, when you're just starting to get it together, the needle kind of might slip in farther. But as you go on, you'll see I'm not really jamming the needle in super far most of the time. I'm just kind of lightly, you know, getting it in there, moving quickly. Just keep spinning and poking and spinning and poking until you have a nice loose ball. You don't want it to be super firm because we're going to be putting more wool on top of it and poking it more, which will firm it up even more. So as long as it's all just kind of staying together and holding a nice round shape, that is good enough for what you want here. Okay, now that we have a nice, you know, loose but held together ball of the white wool, we're going to get out our light brown. That's the color that we're going to use for the majority of Tom Nook's head. And we're going to do the same thing we did with the white, where we're going to kind of pull it apart and spread the fibers out a bit. And, you know, just make sure it's nice and loose. And then we are going to take that white ball and we are going to roll it up the same way that we did before. Just to make it a little bit easier before we start rolling it up, we're going to take the one loose end and we're going to kind of tack it down to our little white ball. We're just going to stab a little bit of the end of the brown and just get it to adhere a little bit before we start rolling. Now we're going to roll it up similarly to the white one. Remember, we're going to tuck in the sides. This one, though, I'm going to be a little bit crazy with it. I'm kind of just going to flip the ball around sideways as I'm rolling just to make sure we get that light brown wool all over the white on the outside. Now, don't worry. If you can still see some of the white through the brown, don't worry about that right now. As we stab at it, it's going to compress and get denser, and that should take care of it. And if it doesn't, we can always add a little bit more later on where we need. I'm going to, again, just kind of stab it a little bit, tack the wool that we rolled up down in place before we roll up the rest of it and start really going ham on the ball. All right, now that it's all tacked down in place, we're going to finish rolling it up, and we're going to make sure that the end of the light brown wool, we're going to kind of pull it apart some more and make sure it's nice and loose before we wrap it around the rest of the ball. And then we're going to start stabbing it and tacking that part down, and once it feels like it's not going to, you know, unravel on us, that's when we start just spinning it around and stabbing and spinning and stabbing like we did before. And honestly, it might take you, depending on how quick you are, 10, 20, 30, 40, even an hour until you get to a nice density that you're happy with. You don't want it to be rock hard. You still want it to have a little squish and a little give at this point, but, you know, you can make sure it's nice and even on the outside. And the longer you stab and the more you spin it as you're doing it, the more even the ball is going to be. Now that I have spent a very long time poking the ball, it is nice and smooth and still squishy. So I'm going to move on to the next part. We're going to start working on his nose. So let's take a little bit of that same light brown fiber, not too much, and we're going to kind of break it up, loosen it up a little bit, and then we're going to fold it over a couple of times. We're kind of trying to make a little triangle point on one end of it. And then we want the loose fiber to still be there on the other end. Now I'm just gonna start poking at this little triangle we've made, staying away from the end with the loose fiber, and being careful because it is a pretty small piece, so I don't want to stab my fingers, so just go slowly and be careful. This footage is sped up, so don't try to keep up with this or anything. I'm not even that fast normally. But yeah, just be careful about your fingers. I'm gonna slowly spin this around as I poke at it, trying to make a nice little triangle shape. Now we're gonna pull apart the loose fibers on the one end just to make sure they're nice and, loose. That's what we're gonna use to tack the nose onto his face. So we definitely need to make sure that we have some nice loose fiber to grab onto. Just keep spinning and poking and spinning and poking until you start to get something that's a nice little triangle shape, roughly, like Tom Nook's little pointy nose. If you'd like, you can take it and hold it up to the ball and see if it's the shape and size that you're hoping for. And if you like it, we can move on to the next step. I'm pretty happy with the shape and size of my nose right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to spread out that loose fiber from the one end of the nose all on the face of the ball, and I'm going to start tacking that in and attaching the nose. I'm going to start by poking closely around the base of the nose and then working my way out into the loose fiber, just moving around and around. Don't stay in the same spot too long, otherwise you might make a little dent. Just keep evenly moving things. Once you feel the nose is nice and secure on the ball and attached to the face relatively well, you can start poking at the actual triangle part of the nose again if you would like to, refine the shape a little bit more. That's what I'm gonna do. Okie dokie, once I have poked at this nose enough and I am happy with it, yeah, I think I am, I'm gonna get out some of the dark brown now, and we're gonna get a little bit of that out, and we're gonna kind of, again, spread it apart, loosen it up. It makes it a lot easier to get all the fibers to tangle together when you poke it. And this is gonna be for his tanuki, the dark area around his eyes, his kind of raccoon mask. So after I've loosened it, I'm gonna fold it over, and I'm gonna lay it down on the, whatever I am felting on, my little felting mat, and I'm gonna start stabbing it just so that I can get it to, kind of become sort of a little sheet that's kind of tangled together before I start putting it on him. So I'm just gonna go around and stab on it evenly a little bit, and then pick it up, flip it over, stab evenly on the other side, get it a little bit to be, tangled together in itself. Now I still want it to be kind of loose. I just want, to make a nice little sheet of the brown. Once I am happy with it holding together, I am going to take it and I'm going to lay it across his face above the nose. Start that out, I am just going to take a needle and I am going to kind of tack it in above his nose a little bit. Now I'm just going to go up from the nose where I tacked it down and go up towards the top of this brown piece, and just kind of in the middle area, I just want to make sure that it's attached. Once the middle is nicely attached, I'm going to take a single needle and I'm going to go around the edge of that brown, and I'm just going to start kind of pushing it in around where the outline that I want the mask to be. So just around where I want the edge of the dark brown to be, I'm going to push it in gently with one needle. As I go, I'm going to start tacking in the middle of that mask area as well, just to make sure it's all hung in there and, attaching to the face. And then I'm going to go around the edge again and I'll fold in the excess and tack that in, and just keep delicately following the outline of the dark brown with the one needle and making sure it's all nicely attached. Now I'm just going to keep alternating between pushing in the outline and tacking in the center, and, back and forth until it starts to become even and just kind of like a part of the head. Now, once it seems attached, keep felting at it a little bit longer and just, make sure it has that same kind of even texture that the outside of the ball has. Once you're happy with the one side, go ahead and repeat the same process on the other side and just try and mimic the shape and make sure it is nice and even and symmetrical. Now that we've got the dark brown mask area all nice and on that face and looking like it's part of the head, we're going to get some more of that dark brown and we're going to start to add that to the tip of Tom's nose. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna take a little small tuft of the dark brown wool and, you know, just make sure that it'll cover the tip of the nose, but it's not too much because you don't want to add too much onto it. And I'm kind of just gonna play with it a little bit, mess around with it between my fingers. Once I've got a nice little tangly ball, I'm just gonna kind of wrap it around the tip of his nose, and starting at the very tip, I'm gonna take my needle and I'm gonna start poking it and trying to tack that new piece of dark brown on. After I do the tip of the nose a little bit, I'm gonna go around kind of the base of the nose and start tacking the dark brown in there as well. Once I feel the dark brown is kind of tacked into place, I'm just gonna take my needles and I'm gonna start going all around over the nose, working around in a circle to make sure it's nice and even. Now you're just gonna wanna keep poking and poking and poking, and it may take a little bit, but you just wanna get it to that nice same kind of texture that the rest of the head is and make it so that it becomes a part of the nose. Next, we're going to start working on the eyes. We're going to take some of that white filler wool that we used to make our original ball, and like with the nose, we're going to grab a little piece of it, and we're going to kind of roll it around in our hands and make it a little bit tangled up. This time we're going to try to get 2 pieces that are about the same size though, one for each eye. Once it's tangled up, I'm going to put the fiber up to the head in the mask where I want the eye to be, and in the very center, I am just going to start tacking it down with my needle. As I go, I'm working my way outward from the center of the eye. I am pulling the excess fiber in to create kind of an oval shape for the eye, and then just keep tacking it in, pull in the fiber from the outside edges. And as I go, I'm going to keep just refining it into that oval shape and just making sure all the little wispies are pulled in so it's a nice, clean oval eyeball. Now, once you're happy with the white oval for your eyeball, we're going to take some of that blue wool we had, and same with the white, we're going to try to get 2 equal part blue wispies, and then we're going to, tangle it up and put it in the middle of that white part, and just the same way we did the white of the eye, we're going to start in the middle and tack it down and work our way out and try to create a nice circle with the blue. Now, once you're happy with how the blue part of the eyeball is, we're going to take some more of the light brown wool that we made his whole outer covering of his head with, and we are going to work on the eyelid. Now, same as before, 2 eyes, 2 eyelids. Try and get 2 small pieces of the brown that are about the same size. Tangle one of those pieces up between your fingers just a little bit. Get it started. And then we're just going to lay it down on the surface that we're felting on, and we're just going to start to stab it a bit to get it to bind together and make a sort of little flat sheet. We're going to stab it a bit and flip it over, and flipping is important because if you don't, it, starts to get felted to the mat that you're working on, and it gets a little bit stuck, and that's not good. Once I'm happy that this little piece is kind of holding together a bit on its own, I'm going to lay it over the top half of the eyeball, kind of at a slant, so the inner corner of the eye is higher and the outer corner is lower to give him that tired look. Then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go around the upper edge of the white part of the eye and start tacking that light brown wool in right around that edge. And again, similarly with how we did the eyes, any extra we're going to fold back over and we're going to keep tacking in. Any little wispies that are hanging off, we're just going to pull them back in and tack them in place. And give him a nice little, half lid. And just poke at it until it seems nice and attached and you're happy with the texture and the way that it looks. Okay, now that you have the one eyeball done, what you're going to want to do is go back and repeat the entire process for the other eye. I'm not going to go through all of that, otherwise this video will be way too long. But yeah, just do the exact same thing for the other eye. Alright, now that we have both eyes on there, we're going to grab a, medium-ish tuft of the light brown wool, and we're going to start working on the ears. Try to make sure you have 2 even pieces, because there are 2 ears. We're going to kind of fold it over a little bit, and just kind of make a ball with one end of the fiber remaining loose, so that helps us attach it to the head. And we're going to go around and start tacking and flipping, and just stabbing and flipping till we get the shape that we're looking for. Tom has pretty round ears, kind of a circle shape, so we're going to try to work this into a little circle
In the same way that we did everything else, just kind of pull in the outer edges and just stab them in. Keep stabbing at it in the shape that you want, and eventually it'll get there. Now remember, just take your time and stab at it. It can be pretty relaxing. Just don't rush it and, enjoy yourself. And once we have a nice disc, round disc shape for the ear, and you're happy with how firm and dense it is, it has the same kind of texture as the rest of the head, we're going to start to pull apart some of that loose fiber at the bottom. Once you've pulled the fiber apart a bit, we're going to put it up at the top of the head and try to find where we like it, where it looks good. When you're happy with the position, go ahead and start stabbing in that loose fiber into the head. Once you feel the ear is sort of become attached to the head, you can go in closer to the base of the disc that we made and make sure that it is really firmly attached. Just stab all around the base of the disc, moving around in a circle around the ear, working your way outwards towards the edges of the loose fiber, stab it all in. And remember, keep working around in a circle, keep moving the needle, don't just stab in the same spot too much, otherwise you might make a bit of a dent. Now that the ear is fully attached and all that loose fiber at the base is fully blended into the head, we're going to do the little bit of brown on the very top of Tom's ear. So go ahead and just grab a little tuft of brown, set aside another one that's about the same amount for the other ear, lay it over the top bit of his ear. From there, we're going to start stabbing the dark brown piece into the front of his ear and then flip it over, stab it into the back, stab it in the top, and just adhere that dark brown piece to the top of his ear until the whole thing is, again, the same texture as everything else. All right, we're on to the home stretch now. Since we've got the ear done and the dark brown bit on the tip, we're gonna take a little bit of that pink, tangle it up in our fingers, make a little circle, and stick it in the center of that ear that we just made. And we're gonna start gently stabbing it in. Make sure to be gentle on this one. You don't wanna stab all the way through the ear, otherwise the pink might come out the other side, and that is not what we want. So delicately work your way around in that pink circle in the center. Make sure that it's tacked in well, the same texture as everything else. Pull in those little wispies and stab them in too. Once you're happy with the pink inner ear bit, what you're gonna do is, again, repeat the whole ear process for the other one. And that's it! That's it, you've got a little Tom Nook head. Congratulations, guys! Isn't he cute and sleepy and cute? Well guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you followed along and made your own awesome little needle felt buddy. This was definitely an interesting video to make, but I had a lot of fun, honestly, and if you guys like this, I would love to do more needle felting tutorials in the future, so please let me know down in the comments, leave a like, subscribe if you haven't already, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Later.